Welcome to Well To Do, the podcast. And I'm Andi Lew. I'm your host. I'm so excited to be able to present episode 13. And I must say, 13 is my lucky number, even though it isn't for most people. But that's exactly why it's my lucky number, because most people don't like it. And I'm joined by a fabulous guest, Dr. SJ, I call her, which is short for Sarah Jane, which we'll go into a bit of an intro first. And I'm so delighted that Dr. SJ is here because, you know, you don't live in LA, but you are here in LA. And so, yeah, it's just an exciting opportunity to have you here, even though Dr. SJ is a fantastic healer from Australia. And speaking of healing, the reason we've been able to do this podcast is because we are sponsored by LifeTune Aries Tech, which is modulation technology for our electromagnetic field surroundings. And this Flex is their new product. You can actually put it on a keyring. So it comes with the little Flex modulation technology and the little circle that you can create a keyring, which I use, and it's unbelievable in terms of most EMF blockers block, which makes the signal work harder to come towards. But this actually creates a modulation of our molecular structure, which is, I guess, even better. So check out Aries Tech and their range of products. So without any further ado, I'm talking about energy and EMFs and, you know, technology and radiation and how our bodies interact with all of that with you, Dr. SJ. And that's why I've brought you on to Well To Do podcast, because I've known you for a very long time. You're now in LA teaching the work that you do, and you started out as a doctor of chiropractic, and you still are a doctor of chiropractic. However, Dr. SJ, you guys, is now teaching her very new technique of spinal energetics. Spinal energetics is taking the world by storm, including all over America, and it is something that is really visual to watch. And so if you want to check out any of her work, go to Instagram. However, what I must say is that because it's so visual, you're getting a lot of publicity. People want to see what this is that you do to them and why the body responds in such a way, because we know that with chiropractic, taking pressure off the nervous system creates instant miracles.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't get to always see that with just sort of some of the techniques. And there are over 100 different techniques with chiropractic. But the technique that you have developed, you can kind of see the body really releasing tension like immediately on the table. So thank you so much for joining Well To Do.
Oh, thank you, Andi, for having me. You've been with me right from the very start of my chiropractic journey, and it's just fate that we're here today in LA together. I'm so excited to be speaking with you for this podcast and talking about spinal energetics, which is this exciting new modality that you were just touching on. And yes, it is very tangible, and that's one of the reasons why I created it. It is tangible not only visually, but it's tangible in terms of the experience that the client is receiving. So spinal energetics isn't something that we are doing to a client, it's creating an experience with the client. And, in terms of traditional chiropractic, yes, you can feel this spinal manipulation occurring and you can feel the change as a result. But what's very special about spinal energetics is that we are working with the energetic layer system to then coordinate with the innate intelligence to unwind on its own, rather than someone else physically having to create a change. It's working with the same intelligence that created that fixation or that area of bound tension and unwinding it itself with that same level, that same intelligence that keeps your heart beating, that same intelligence that, digests your food. It's working with that same special part, that body's wisdom.
So anyone that's just like listening to you talk right now, they're like, what is she even talking about? Right? Because for the average person who hasn't even tried chiropractic, now we're talking about innate intelligence, we're talking about energy, we're talking about the nervous system and watching the body visually adapt to the release of any stored tension. These are huge concepts for the average person, right?
Yes, they are.
So even the average person can feel amazing results with not even needing to understand what it is you're doing. And I think that's why this has become so successful, because even with people thinking that this is a skeptical modality or technique, they can still go, wow, I don't know what you just did, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's impressive is that for some people that haven't wanted sort of heavy-handed techniques, because of the energetics, because of the way in which you almost conduct the orchestra, which is that human body that's in, concert with your energy, because we are mere reflections of each other. That's what's impressive, I guess, to watch.
Yeah.
Right? Now, yes, we've known each other forever. Might I take our listeners on a journey that we met? Well, you met me before I met you.
Yes, I knew you blah, blah, blah.
You met me because you saw me on stage speaking.
Yes.
You read my first book ever.
Yes,
and
I
it
did.
inspired you to actually go and study to become a doctor of chiropractic.
100% it did.
Wow. Can I just say that's huge? Yay, all those sleepless nights, and now I die happy. So, I mean, that's why I do what I do, because I want others to understand what's possible in terms of healing. So you've gone and gotten a 6-year or 5-year double science degree, and then you've gone, well, there are different strokes for different folks. Not everybody wants heavy-handed. And how did you come up with this new technique called spinal energetics and as the umbrella under Enlighten Chiropractic?
Yeah, well, look, there's a few things. So my first background was psychology and philosophy. So that's what I studied first. And my minor was Buddhism and Hinduism, and my major was neuroscience. So I had this huge interest in the body, in the mind, why we are the way we are, but also the Eastern philosophies and why people in the East have a different sense of happiness to those of us in the West. I then went on and traveled all over the world, really delved into these kind of different notions about what life is and what the meaning of life is. I then went on and studied applied science and clinical science, like you suggested there, in terms of chiropractic with distinction and achieving in the top 10% of my academic year level. I then got a scholarship to travel to India and give chiropractic care to India. And people who were not able to access this kind of care otherwise, and then went and did my postgraduate in Buddhism, in humanistic Buddhism at the only Buddhist university in Australia, and I received a scholarship for that. So for me, spinal energetics was a natural progression from blending the East and the West.
Right.
Also, one of the things that I kept coming up as a barrier in terms of speaking with people about chiropractic was their concern about the spinal manipulation.
Now, let's just talk about that, because I have done a well-to-do podcast on chiropractic already, and I could have easily just gone, nah, already done it, not doing. But as I said, there's over 100 different techniques.
Yes.
And different people will resonate with different types of techniques. And some people have sort of myths and misconceptions around manipulation and what that is. And I always talk about that. And I do talk about it in my book, Connected, A Paradigm Shift in How We View Health, that, the difference between a manipulation and a chiropractic adjustment is the intention is towards correction. It's all about intention. Life is all about intention. So if you're not just doing a random manipulation of joints and you're actually trained with your intention towards a correction, then that's a whole different story, right? So, but now let's just say people don't even want to be touched, right?
Yeah.
So you're not even, it's like an erogenous zone. You're kind of putting your hands in an area over the body, and the body is going, oh, I know, I'm literally being guided by your energy.
Yes.
And I don't even need to be touched. And you're like the catalyst, if you like, that's conducting the orchestra.
Yeah, in a way. And the thing is, we don't realize that we are all energy. Energy is also a topic that people don't have much awareness about, just like they don't have much awareness about the manipulation. So what we are doing is very similar to chiropractic in the sense that we are looking for the areas in the body that carry fixation or areas of bound tension. That's how we're bringing the West into it. We're looking for areas of bound tension. What that bound tension represents can be emotional, can be physical, can be chemical, all of these different stored areas that are creating a certain nervous system dysfunction. Now, it might be a protective mechanism, it might be something else, but either way, we value what the nervous system has done. We honor it. It's not about dishonoring that or fixing someone or fixing something. What we are doing though is we're going to the areas of disconnection and we check through the energetic layers. So coming off the body, working off the body predominantly. If you ever see any of my Instagram videos of my work, you will notice that I'm working off the body specifically. And within that layer, we find the connection within the disconnection. That connection then communicates with that innate intelligence to unwind whatever has stored in there naturally and with its own intelligence, and unwinds it itself. Again, spinal energetics isn't something that the practitioner is doing to someone, or it's not a modality that we are doing to fix someone or correct someone as such. It's a modality that there's two people working together within the energetic field to help them be the best version of who they are. It's an alignment not just of the body and of the physical, but it's an alignment of their energetic system and of their soul, so that they can be who they really are in this world before they were told who they should be.
And that's all we really want.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just break down what the nervous system is. It's the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves that branch off that.
Correct.
And the body acknowledges that that's the most important system in the world, because that's why whoever created us, whether it's God, grand organised design, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it's surrounded by the hard casing of the skull and then the vertebrae, the bones of the spine.
Yes.
So what can happen is with physical, chemical, emotional, and even environmental toxic stressors, that can create a misalignment or a nervous system interference, and then that's no longer protecting the nervous system. It's rather giving a distorted signal.
100%.
So what you're essentially doing is allowing clearer communication, which is what all chiropractors are doing,
Yes.
from brain to body and to every cell, tissue and organ, but through the energetic field.
That's the difference.
Right, that we are both emanating.
Yes.
Because we are all connected, right?
We are all connected, and even if you ever see me doing a group session, you will see the synchronicity and the resonance between the people in the session.
So let's talk about synchronicity, because for those skeptics, let's say, that don't understand energy or synchronicity, you only have to look at women who spend a lot of time together, and eventually, whether they live together or just spend a lot of time together, they start to synchronize their menstrual cycles.
They do.
You only have to look at birds that fly in formation in sort of a triangular figuration. When one turns left, they all turn left, and it's not like they go, hey mate, in 300 meters we're just going to turn left.
Yeah, it's an innate knowing.
Same with the school of fish that know, again, they're all moving together with this connectedness and this innate intelligence that keeps us connected with our energy, as you say.
And that's what we're working with. What some misconceptions about spinal energetics is the intricacy.
Say that 3 times fast.
The intricateness of this work. Okay, so this is not an energetic work that you just turn up to and you graduate with because you participated in the experience. This is very intricate and very deep work. We are teaching people how to work with the nervous system to unwind tension through energetic layers. So it's another option as opposed to working physically to change the nervous system's structure and the formation. We're working with it in an energetic way to unravel those layers and unravel those bound tension areas through certain tension patterns and certain assessments that we do to figure out where in the spine is it, where is it located, what's it got to do with in terms of the metaphysical symptoms, what is it relating to in terms of the physical symptoms. These are all things that we are still thinking of, which is what is a little bit different in terms of the energetic philosophy. We then work from the energetic layer to work with all of these areas in conjunction. But what we're also touching on is the energetic centers, such as the chakras and other philosophies within the Eastern modalities.
Wow. Okay, so since, I guess, the pandemic, we all started going, what else can I do to become more well? How can I really explore what true health is? How can I really, learn how to be the best version of me, as you say? And I think that now we're starting to finally understand how our bodies work, and we're working with it, right? Instead of going, here's a symptom, let's have a medication and cover it up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we do heal, right? We heal through the nervous system, which is the master controller. It is the conductor of the orchestra. So how is your work facilitating and encouraging the natural body's ability to heal on its own?
Yeah. So we are, like I said, working with that same innate intelligence. How are we working with it? Well, we assess the body. The body tells us then. The body communicates to us where the bound tension areas are, where the fixations are, where the subluxations are. Whatever your philosophy is, that's where we're looking for. We go up to that area in the body. We then activate the energetic system within that body, and we check through the energetic layers of the physical.
How do you activate it?
We activate it by intention. So that was something that you brought up before. So intention is very, very important with spinal energetics work, because some of the points actually cross over. Some of the points where you are on for the actual sacrum are also points that are referral points for the neck.
Okay.
So it's got to be specific. It's got to be intentional. And you've also got to create that intention and that clarity, and also be very concise with the way that you're interacting with that person's energetic field for them to pick up the language that you are teaching them.
Right.
And it's not that you're teaching them a new language, it's teaching them a remembering that already existed within their body.
Bringing us back to self.
Bringing us back to self. And through those energetic layers, whether they're physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, personal, soul, we are finding that connection, that area that is still connected within that disconnection. We then activate that area, and we have that energy then to play with. And in terms of playing within that regard, we then take that to the chakral system, to the energetic system, and we feed it through that wheel of energy, through that motion of energy, and then that sets off a cascade of healing with the innate wisdom for that person. But that is also what creates the movement that you are seeing. I get a lot of questions asked, is the movement voluntary? No, it is not. It is involuntary.
Do you think, though, and this is just for the skeptics who are going to ask this question, and I agree with you, but I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Please do.
Right. So they're going to say to me, do you think, though, that those people are watching the videos of you, I guess, creating beautiful energy movement and healing, and then kind of being subliminally programmed to do similar?
For people who have watched the videos, that could be a possible outcome.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people who come to us who haven't seen the videos.
Yep.
However, that is one reason why we do show the videos. We want to show people what's possible. We want to show people what they are able to do with their bodies when they are willing to surrender and let go. If you don't know that the 4-minute mile can be run in under 4 minutes, you don't believe it's possible. But guess what happens when someone does it? Everyone runs under the 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's that same kind of notion. It's not a programming as such. It's a showing of what's possible.
Love this.
Yeah. And then once people realize what is possible, what's infinite within them, once they connect to that, then they understand that, hey, this isn't something I need to mentally rationalize. This is something I need to feel, connect to, and allow through my system, and to connect back to my knowing, to my body's wisdom, not to what's out there, not what's out in the external of what we're being told. What's within me? What do I know? And once they connect to that, you never unhear it, you never unsee it, and you never unfeel it.
Okay, so you literally empower people to remind them what's possible in terms of innate healing.
100%. And that's what we are wanting to do. We are wanting to empower the client. There's nothing special about me in terms of me having this special ability to do this with people. That's why we're training people.
Yeah.
That's why we're training different practitioners to have this work, because it is within every single human being.
So you're spreading this training technique not just to enlighten your practice, that's the name of it, but to others so that they can share that with the world, because that's your bigger vision. And I want to talk about your bigger vision towards the end of the podcast. But basically what's going on is that you're seeing healing miracles, you're showing people what's possible, they're innately moving in a way. Let's talk about that movement. So basically, some people's bodies are moving to release tension. Is that right?
That's a very basic way of describing it. So it's almost like feeling like you need to stretch or move to unwind something. Now, what's telling you to unstretch or unwind?
You tell me.
Well, what's telling you? It is the body telling you.
Right.
What's telling the body that? The wisdom that resides in every single one of us. Okay, so what we are doing, I know in the video sometimes it looks like I'm orchestrating them to move in a certain way. And yes, we can eventually get to that point where we have such specific skill set within that energetic field that we can be so fine tuned that we can articulate movements in a very specific way. But at the start, what we are looking for is body and mind connection, breath in the body.
Breath is huge, yep.
And then once people are connected back to themselves, guess what happens?
What?
That's when the movement starts.
Right. Because we are innately wanting to move. We're not supposed to be sedentary.
No, we're not. So it's even like children. Have you ever watched a child, how they interact with the world?
Well, even in this moment now, I want to take off my heels and sit on the couch. Do you know what I mean?
So we're programmed to sit still, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a programming from the social construct.
Right.
That's not a programming from what's within us
It's
and
not
what
healthy.
our body is wanting to do. Even if you look at something like a TRE, a trauma release exercise, that is inducing a shake it off exercise into someone's system to release trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That shake it off response isn't something that we're teaching someone to do. It is an innate thing that we as human beings, especially in the West, have forgotten. This kind of construct about energy and releasing bound tension and through emotional storage, and that the body is reciting these certain moments and memories in time, is not something that's foreign in the East. It is something that's foreign to us in the West.
Wow. So in the West, we have had so much trauma, PTSD trauma, and you've seen that more ever since the pandemic, even more.
Yes.
You've seen that in practice. What kind of healing miracles have you seen in practice, because there's an ever-increasing emotional trauma that's coming through those doors?
So many miracles in the sense of people, for example, with addictions. If we look at the premise behind addictions, it's not just the addiction to a substance. Why is someone wanting to escape their life? It's emotional pain. It's emotional pain. Things like self-harm. Why are they doing that? Most of the time, people don't even know why. It's an instinctive thing within their body that wants to release pain. This is another option to do that in a safe environment, safe space with a practitioner who can be there with you to help you integrate those emotions that you are feeling, those traumas that you have experienced, so that you are no longer living in the past, so that you no longer have to escape anything anymore, and you are able to be safe in this present moment.
And I call this divine discomfort, if I may.
Yeah.
Because in this moment of discomfort, where we have traditionally been taught that it is painful or uncomfortable to feel the pain or the trauma, we're now allowed to feel safe in the divinity of such healing modalities, where you're literally physiologically removing it from the nervous system.
I love that you touch on this. And the reason being, some people come as a client or to even my courses as a practitioner, what they want to experience is the bliss state. They want to experience the transcendence of it. What I then re-educate people on is how important the grounding is and the mud is. The hard times.
Yep. So the reason why I brought Dr. SJ on is because I've personally experienced her work. And yeah, among other, chiropractic modalities, it is a divine discomfort. It is absolutely one of those life moments where you're like, I thought I was going to have to feel this pain, this physical pain, this emotional trauma and pain for the rest of my life and never be able to shake it. And it is so nice to be able to find, as you say, that safe space and technique and protocol to just be able to release and shake it off. And until we're taught it or until we've experienced it, we think that we have to live like this for the rest of our lives. We think that that needs to stay trapped in our body, and then it needs to be numbed with a drug, a med, alcohol, whatever it is that's going on. So this is why it's important that I want people to know your work, to know that there, as you say, what's possible.
What's possible.
What's possible.
And there's more than just verbalization. So in the West, we're taught, see your psychologist.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Right.
And I'm sure many of your listeners can resonate with this, where they've spoken about it over and over and over again.
And it just triggers, it keeps going.
It can re-trigger, but what it also can do is, yes, we can rationally understand something, but that does not mean that the body and the body's physiology and the body's response to trauma understands it in the same way that your rationale understands it. This is then working with that part and getting that part to integrate as well, which is why this work is exceptionally special.
So you're at full capacity right now. You can't take on any more. You call them clients. I used to call them patients, but patient means one who suffers. So when they're having this kind of care, they don't suffer anymore. So we don't call them that. Just people, I would call them people. You can't take on any more people.
No.
And so what is your wish for the world?
Well, that is why I'm training others in the modality, so that my wish for the world is that everyone gets to experience spinal energetics.
Yeah.
And not spinal energetics specifically, but what spinal energetics brings. And what spinal energetics brings is that connection to yourself that you have been missing, and that connection to everyone else in this entire world, and that connection to whatever you believe in, whether it's God, consciousness, universe, whatever it is, that connection to that. Once you have that connection, everything else fades away and you remember what really matters in this world. And that's my wish for everyone. And, you know, I'm not able to get to everyone around the world. So that's why I created the course. Let's create more practitioners who can bring this work that's full of integrity, safety, and also knowledge, so that they can bring that to other people within their community in this ripple effect. My goal isn't to change the world specifically myself, but if I can change one person's world,
of course,
that changes the next person, the next person, and the next person.
That ripple effect.
That ripple effect.
So fundamentally, having this type of care helps people to have a freedom state within themselves emotionally, physiologically. We remove the desire or need for as many drugs and meds, and we create empowered people, like wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Empowered people and connected people.
Okay.
People who are feeling safe to be connected to who they are and connected to their bodies.
Yep. Yeah, wow. Wow. Well, all I can say is it's amazing that you're here in LA because you're reaching more people. I think we're going to need to keep you in this country for a little bit longer. Although if you do want to have a look at Dr. SJ's work, she is in Melbourne and just growing rapidly. And tell everybody where to find you.
So I am in Melbourne. Look at Spinal Energetics or at Dr. Sarah Jane Cairo on Instagram. That's the best way to connect with me. And the last note I want to leave you on is that not every session with this work is gratifying either.
Right.
Okay. It's not just this energetic technique where you feel good every single time.
Right.
Sometimes the most important session is the session where you feel like you couldn't get your mental out of the way. You couldn't connect. You couldn't, maybe some emotions that you didn't want to feel came up. They are sometimes the most important sessions for people. So this isn't a modality about feeling good all the time. This is a modality about
unraveling,
creating safety, and then refining that and transforming who you are and expanding who you are into this world so that you can feel safe to be you.
Well, look, may I say that it's just the allopathic model that teaches us that we have to like take this one pill and then we're going to feel amazing, or this one session and then it's all over. But
it doesn't work.
It's the journey.
It's the journey.
Yeah.
And just like this work, it's not one session.
Not one podcast.
Not one podcast. This work is a commitment, you know, from you, and a consistency.
So for those who feel upset about that, it's all about finding the joy in the journey.
That's right.
And in that divine discomfort, because the word divine does come from divinity. So, you know, and it's just been, I guess, a really divine moment being present with you. After talking, I must say I feel like I want to move more because we shouldn't be sedentary. I mean, that's the new epidemic.
Yeah.
So, for anyone listening or watching, get up and move. And, hopefully we will continue this journey together by having you back on again. But please do follow Dr. SJ on her Instagram, and we will love to hear all of your comments and feedback about this episode and your many questions that you're going to have after viewing her work.
I think there will be a few questions.
Thanks for joining us on Well To Do.
Thanks.